guys, so we are on item number 8 in our cheat sheet. If you've been watching or if you've watched other videos, we have links to the previous sections in the cheat sheet somewhere on this page. Somewhere your intelligent self will find them. But right now we're talking about demographics. One of the items, the very first one in here, is location, which we somewhat touched on in item number 6 right here, location targeting, but we're going to go a little bit deeper into that one. And what we're looking for are groups of people or locations that perform either better or worse on average than your average customer or than your target, your goal. So this is an area we can find, some good wins that can last a while because you're finding groups of people who on average don't do well. If we can get more people who are doing well in terms of bookings and calls and get rid of those who don't, then we can help our spend get used a lot more wisely. And so if you're using smart bidding, some of these options are not going to be available to you. So if you're using max conversions, max conversion value, target CPA, target ROAS, depending on when you're watching this, if you don't know what those things are, you should still watch this video. But if you're using those, the only thing you can really do is exclude people and things. You can't really add a bid adjustment. So we're looking at adjusting bids for certain winners and losers, and we're looking at excluding things altogether if it's just really crappy. So let's just hop right in here. All right, so we're in our handy dandy Google Ads account. And when you log in, what you're going to want to do is go to your all campaigns section, which is where we are now. And then you can look for, we'll start with locations. So you might see it toward the bottom, locations. And then it's going to show you either, you might have just added United States. Let's say, for example, you won't see all these states in here. It's however you added the locations as you're targeting. That's what you're going to see here. But what we're going to do is look at not just the way we added them, we're going to look at the breakdown. What that means is if you just added United States and all you see here is United States, it's not going to be very helpful. But you're able to click on something like match locations, and that'll show you within that United States target all the different levels. So you can see right here, the first step below would be states, but you can look at regions, which are kind of like states usually, DMAs, you can look at cities, counties, that sort of a thing. Definitely states is probably the most helpful for most people. What we can do here now is, assuming we have the right columns in place for some of our conversion metrics and you're tracking them, and if you don't know where to find them, you go to modify columns and add them in. These are some of the important ones. What we're going to basically do here is just maybe start by sorting by cost and look at where we're spending a lot of money and not making it back, or where we're potentially making a good return but we want more of it, okay? And then we'll show you how to take an action on it. So we're going to start with one that's not working so well. So on average, we spend $1 and we get $5.62 back. And actually, before I go any further, keep in mind you want to have at least, I would say at least 90 days worth of data, if not more, for this exercise. You don't want to use just a month worth of data because you're probably not going to have enough money spent in any one state for this to really be helpful for you. And even here, we're in the hundreds. I mean, this is not super duper helpful, but for this, example, this is only about a 4-month-long campaign, maybe less. So it wasn't a very long one. But we can look here and say, okay, on average, we're making about $5.62 back for every dollar spent. That's what conversion to value divided by cost represents here. This does not include phone call bookings, people calling over the phone, booking over the phone, paying that way. Does not include that. But if I'm looking at that as just one way of looking at things, or it could be our cost per lead, which is right here. We can find something similar there. What I'm looking for is a loser. So I can tell right here, this would definitely be a loser. We are getting back 25 cents for every $1 spent on ads. Here we're getting $2 back, which is still kind of a loser in comparison to everything else. Here's another. But let's just go with California. And what we'd say here is, okay, is this such a loser in this instance that we would just want to get rid of it completely? We just said, you know what, we want California. And you might find 3 or 4 of them. This may not just be one state at a time. But let's just say this is the only one that we found. We might want to just take it one step down and say, okay, is it happening across all of our campaigns? Because we selected to view the match locations for the account. But maybe we want to check it out per campaign. And we can go in here, and now we can just sort by locations. Match locations, look for California. And here's all the instances of California. It's just basically showing California with the campaign name associated with it. And if we decide, yeah, this looks pretty crappy, I don't even want to, I want to, let's just say I want to exclude it all altogether. I could decide whether I want to do that for all these campaigns, or I could just unselect the ones that, okay, this one's not doing the worst, I'll give it more time. This one's not doing so bad, I'll unselect it. We can just hit edit. We can choose to exclude it completely. You could say remove, but I say exclude would be better, because if you're not actually targeting it, which in this case we are, you may not even see that remove option. So exclude. Like if you just add the entire United States, you may not be able to remove anything at all because you didn't target just California. So you would choose exclude if you want to get rid of it. Or maybe we just want to say, you know what, these are doing bad. I don't really want to get rid of them completely, but I just want to pay less for that traffic. And if I get it, great, but I'm not willing to pay quite as much. You can just go to add targets and set bid adjustments and then say, okay, I want to decrease this by, let's just say 30%. And now what would be a $10 bid for every other state becomes a $7 bid in this particular case. This same exact process applies if you find a good one. Like we saw that Alaska was doing pretty well. I could have easily selected my Alaskas and come over here to hit edit and said, you know what, I want to increase my bids in Alaska by 20% because they're doing so well. That's something else you can do. It's the exact same process whether you go up or down in terms of your bid. Again, with smart bidding, this won't work. The only option you're going to get is to exclude. The way you saw I was able to choose exclude. That is all you're going to get. So you're not going to, they'll let you they'll let you do these, but they'll just completely ignore them, which is even worse because you think you're doing something, you're not doing anything. So just bear that in mind. So locations, that's locations. Pretty simple to do, pretty basic. If you have any questions about that one, let me know, and we'll move on to the other part, which is demographics. So demographics, depending on when you're watching this, at least for right now, just went over transformation, and it's now under audiences. It used to be its own thing. It used to say demographics, and now it's no longer just demographics. So we click on audiences right here, and the same kind of a thing applies, where we can look at audience segments. I'll move back over here. Audience segments for the entire account, for a certain campaign. You can edit some demographics right here on this view. You have to select ad groups to do that at. We're not going to worry about that for right now. But just to keep it high level, you can look at all campaigns like we're doing right here. Look at existing, just single campaign. I do think it's helpful to do both. I do think you need to have definitely at least 3 to 6 months worth of data here, because it's not going to be that statistically valid if you just have a small number. And that depends on your spend. If you spend a lot of money, you might not need that full range, but definitely these things probably won't change that often for the most part, so it shouldn't matter to use a bigger date range. Anyway, you can see right here we have age, gender, household income is a great one. I'll talk about that in a minute. And we can just use things like conversions, and cost per conversion could be a great starting point. And just look, conversions would be bookings or calls if you're setting things up correctly. So if I have a lot of calls and my cost for each of those conversions is low, then that's a winning combination. So in this particular case, we don't really have anything that is that much lower, but this is probably the best example that we have. You can see something like this would not be that great, where we're getting a small number of conversions and we're paying the most for them out of this entire group. Now, it's still not a bad number. $38 is not really that bad in the grand scheme of things. And as we look at certain campaigns, it may be more evident that there's some that are worse than others. You can even show a table if you like seeing it that way and getting some ideas for the individual campaign level and changes to like a campaign, which could be helpful, right? So we're talking about certain campaigns or the entire account. If you'd rather just see more data here, not just 2 metrics, either one works. The big thing here, again, is you're looking at, okay, let's say 18 to 24, we pay a lot per conversion. We don't really want those people anymore. With smart bidding, again, you cannot change the bid adjustment if you're using max conversions, max conversion value, target ROAS, target CPA. All you can do is exclude. If you're using manual bidding, max clicks, things like that, you can use these adjustments. And what you can do is go to the ad group level here, and you can see the option for bid adjustments exists there. And what you can do, oops, sorry, wrong thing. What you can do is select, let's say you want to select all the 18 to 24. You can add a filter for it, age, 18 to 24, apply. Select them all right here, all 90 of them, depending on how many campaigns you have. And then you can exclude them like we talked about for smart bidding, or again, change the bid adjustments just like in locations. Same idea. The same holds true for gender. and household income. Parental status is one that usually gets very little data. We don't really make a lot of moves here. There's not much you can glean a lot of times. So I don't think you're going to find too much there. Household income is pretty interesting. Be aware that this is not based on an individual, meaning that just because somebody's in the top 10% of household income, it does not mean that individual himself makes that kind of money. It means, and this is only U.S. based, this is only for U.S., this is based on IRS data that says that they live in a top 10% area code or zip code in the country as far as income is concerned. So let's say, I'm just going to make one up, 90210 or whatever, right? If that's in the top 10%, probably is, then if somebody lives there, even if they live in the ghetto part that they don't make any money, no offense to anybody in that situation, but just saying, if they're in that location, technically they're part of the top 10% because they live in that area code or that zip code. So just be aware, you might not weed out, people without money in some cases when you have a very dense population. It could be the case that you do clean it up a bit, and we do find that it does help, but it's not going to be perfect. And then unknown is where Google's not sure about people. They're not logged in. They're hiding their browsing. Maybe they're blocking, some of the information that Google can grab from them, whatever it is. Unknown is always like a mixed bag. Sometimes it works well. Sometimes it doesn't work well at all. But you just take a look and see how it's performing. So that's basically all we need to do is come in here, exclude things, make sure that we're targeting things that make sense. If you know that nobody under 18 ever searches for books for what you offer, then it's probably a good idea to get rid of those people, right? Because what's the point in having them? Right now, it respected my filter. That's why it looks like that. So if you run into any issues where you're seeing what I'm seeing right now, if it just lets you, you just have to remove it. But hopefully this was helpful. Again, this is a really good way to make sure you're getting ads out, spending your dollars to people who are going to convert the best, matter the most, in the locations that show the most promise for your particular operation. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.